Hey everybody, it's Jim, it's Amedeus, and we welcome you to Tuesday. And we're going to talk a little baseball today, Amadeus. What's the thought up in Toronto about Josh Donaldson deciding to retire?
Yeah, I haven't personally heard too much about his choice to retire or his choice to retire. Not breaking too many news up here. So
Right.
yeah, it's one of those things where it's just the classic like, oh, that's good. He had a nice career. Let him go off into the sunset type of thing.
He's going to be joining MLB Network. Josh is a talker, so that should be a good match for the MLB Network crew. So good to have him on the crew up there. So we'll definitely not we won't be without the opportunity to see what he's up to. So we shall see that coming up. In the very near future. One of the things that we have the opportunity to do during spring training is to take a look at the projected starting lineups for some of these baseball teams. And let's go through some of them and see how it looks in the AL East. Let's start with the Blue Jays. They lead off with George Springer in right field. Bo Bichette is, of course, at shortstop. Vladdy is at first base. This is where Justin Turner. Remember, I said I'm glad to see him on the Jays. I'm a little surprised that he's batting in the cleanup spot, but okay. Dave Schneider at second. Davis Schneider at second base. Danny Jensen catching. Dalton Varasho is your left fielder. Isaiah Kiner Falafel, the third baseman. And Kevin Kiermaier is your very good defensive center fielder.
Yeah, so obviously, the top of the lineup hasn't changed much there, but
Hmm.
a lot of movement in the bottom half there. I think Matt Chapman's a piece they're probably going to be missing this season for sure.
Hmm.
I was shocked they didn't try to keep him around. That was not a good move on their part. A lot of these guys were guys they brought in, last season more so as depth, and now you're
Hmm.
seeing them get like Dalton Varsho for one was more of a DH type kind of guy, and now we're seeing him vaulted into a starting role on the
Hmm.
team. So it'll be interesting to see what this lineup does. Obviously, you have three reliable guys leading off there, but
Hmm.
yeah, I mean. Danny Jansen, he's a guy that's dealt with injuries the past few years, but he's a solid catcher when he does play, so that's good to see. And then, yeah, Kiner Falefa, I mean, he was obviously the shortstop for the
Hmm.
Yankees last season, so we're getting him now. I mean, he's not he's a great defensive player, but
Hmm.
as far as at bats, you're not going to expect too much from him.
Hmm.
So if anything, this lineup looks like it's taken a step back from what they had last year.
Hmm. He's kind of a first to third base guy. He gets on
Yeah.
base, and then somehow, some way, he figures out a way to get to third base, which is kind of good because that'll be good for the Orioles, the Blue Jays, as they manufacture some runs. I mean, they got guys who can, no question. There's 3-run homers in that lineup, but you want to be able to play small ball, and I think that with some of these guys, they can do it. Justin Turner, what I like about him is he's a good, you know, he'll hit home runs. There's no question about it. But at the end of the day, he just gets on base. He drives you nuts because every time you look up, he's on base. Whether it's a walk, whether it gets hit by pitch, or whether he actually gets a hit, he finds a way to get on. Or if or grind out an at bat. So he's going to eat up. He's not going to get out in 3 pitches. You're not getting him out in 3 pitches. He's going to grind you three or to 5 or 6 pitches, maybe even 8 pitches with bat. So he's a grinder, and he's, as I said, I'm a little surprised he's batting in the cleanup spot with those three big bats ahead of him. But you know we'll see how that one works out. The
Yeah, well,
Orioles. Go
that I
ahead.
was going to say that might be what they're going for this year, just because
Hmm.
if you remember, that was their big issue last season was
Hmm.
they were the worst team with with players with runners in scoring positions. So definitely looking for more small ball kind of players because it's great when you have guys that can get on the base, but you also need guys that know how to run the bases and
Mhm.
make smart decisions. Don't go it. There was a few times where Springer screwed them on that end. So definitely, that's probably what they're going for this season.
Well, here's what general manager Mike Ellis, Elias has put on the field in Baltimore. It's basically the same team as won the division last year. Gunnar Henderson's at shortstop. Adley Rushman is the catcher. Anthony Santander, one of my favorite names, and is also one of very, very solid player, is in right field. First baseman is Ryan Mountcastle. Ryan O'Hearn is the DH. Austin Hayes is in left field. Cedric Mullins is your center fielder. Jackson Holiday. Now, Jackson Holiday is the number one overall prospect in Major League Baseball. So we'll see how that works out for the O's. And Jordan Westbrook is going to be your third baseman. So two young guys at the bottom of the lineup, Holiday and Westbrook, holding down second and third base for the Orioles as they try to repeat from last year's winning of the division.
Yeah, solid lineup there. I mean, not too many changes. They
Not
got a
too
lot
many
of the guys.
surprises. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the guys from last year, so that'll be good for them.
Yeah. The Rays, Yandy Diaz at first base. Brandon Lowe's at second. Randy Arozarena, one of my favorites to watch in left field. Josh Lowe is your right fielder. Isaac Paredes is the baseman. Harold Ramis is your Ramirez, I should say, not the director of Ghostbusters, is your DH. Jose Siri is in center field. Jose Calabrio is your shortstop. And Rene Pinto is catching for that team. So there you go. That's your, um, you know, that's your starting lineup. Not a lot of home runs in there, but a lot of speed in there.
Yeah, they just keep churning out young talent, no matter what. As you said, not going to get a ton of home runs, but you're going to get a ton of runs for
Yeah.
sure. Just with the speed these guys can run and the way they can get on base. So
For those of you who are Boston Red Sox fans, um, try to, as I read these names off, try not to laugh. Jaron Duran is going to be your center fielder. Rafael Devers is at third base. Trevor Story is your shortstop. Tristan Cavish is at first base. Matasaka Yashishioda is your designated hitter. Tyler O'Neill is in left field. Wilmer Abreu is in right field. Vaughn Grissom is at second base. Connor Wong is catching. I know four of those guys. Other than that,
I was going to say the first three sounded great, and then after that was just
yeah, milk cartons. These guys
yeah.
are on.
Something tells me them and the Blue Jays are going to be fighting for that 4/5 spot in the division this year.
It's a wild one. All right, let's take a look at the Yankees who come up next. They lead off with DJ LeMahieu at third base. Juan Soto is your right fielder batting second. The Judge is in center field. That's a very interesting thing. We'll come back to that in a minute. Batting cleanup is Anthony Rizzo. Gleyber Torres is at second base. Alex Verdugo is your left fielder. Giancarlo Stanton is your designated hitter. Anthony Volpe is your shortstop. And Jose Trevino is your catcher. Um, I putting Judge in center field is a bit of a surprise to me. You know, they got Verdugo was the center fielder in, I thought he was going to be their center fielder, but I guess they've decided to keep him at a corner outfield position and give the center field spot to Judge. What are your thoughts about him covering that much ground?
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one, just because obviously he's in the latter half of his career now, and injuries have been a problem for him as well.
Right.
So I think it has been a shock to me too, just because I would think the concern to get injured out there, we see all the time. Not forget the amount of
Right.
ground he's going to have to cover and run around there, but we see it all the time where you get caught, get yourself injured in
Mhm.
those bad situations where you run into guys. So yeah, I just not the best move for him, but I mean, if the Yankees want to try it out, that could change, obviously.
Well, here's the thing. Juan Soto doesn't have the arm to be a right fielder. Now, you've got Giancarlo Stanton, who, like Judge, is a big dude, and you know Giancarlo isn't what he was, but he's still got a pretty good arm. My guess is that they're gonna play with that DH spot. That Stanton's gonna find his way into the outfield from time to time, and at the end of the day, I think before the season is over, that the center one of two things is gonna happen. Judge is gonna either be able to handle center field, or they're going to slide Verdugo over there and Soto into left field, which is what Soto's position really truly is. I mean, he's a left fielder. He doesn't have the arm to be a right fielder, but we'll see. The Yankees have from top to bottom, that's a pretty. There's a lot of runs in those bats. There's also a lot of swings and misses in those bats.
Yeah, we talked a ton about how with the money spent there, the names in those lineups, you can't have a season like you had last year. It's time to win.
That's right. And speaking of time to win, okay, Guardians fans, here you go. You're going to be like the Red Sox. Here we go. Stephen Kwan is your left fielder. Andres Jimenez, second base. Jose Ramirez is your third baseman. Josh Naylor at first. Bo Naylor is your catcher. That's right. The Naylor brothers are on the lineup for the Guardians. Will Brenneman is your DH. Ramon Lanciero is your right fielder. Miles Straw is your center fielder. And Gabriel Arias is your shortstop. That's another team that's going to be a small ball team, because no question about it, the Guardians. There's not a lot of pop in that lineup.
Yeah, usually they're a small ball kind of team, and
Mhm.
last year, they really took a step back. I think they
Right.
were one of the few teams that was really affected by the change in the shift rule. So definitely, we'll have to see if last year was a good year for them to adapt. See how they come out this year.
Now here's the team in Kansas City that just might um, be the Orioles of this year. I'm not saying that they can win the division, but they certainly might be a playoff, because this is a team that they built. A lot of young players on this roster, and they got a few names that you're going to recognize, but for the majority of them, these are guys that they've been working with in the minor system, and trying to bring them up, and they hope that it's going to pay off for them. Maquel Garcia is their third baseman. Bobby Witt Jr. is at short. Vinny Pasquantino is at first base. He is one of the key players on this team. Everybody thinks that this is, that Pasquantino is going to be a star in this league. Salvador Perez, a name most know, is behind the plate. MJ Menendez is your left fielder. Hunter Renfroe, again, there's a name you know, in right. And Michael Massey is your second baseman. Nelson Vasquez is your DH. And Kyle Isabel is your center fielder. So Pasquanino, he had he had back issues last year, which was the year that everybody thought it was going to be his breakout year. But he's back and definitely healthy. So we'll see how things work out for the folks that play their games in Kauffman Stadium. See if any of the Chiefs magic rubs off on the Jays.
Yeah, we'll have to see
I'm
what
not the
the
Royals, not
Royals
the
do.
Jays.
Yeah, we'll have to see
Yeah.
what the Royals do this year. I mean, we're expecting them to be better, but the bar is not too high for that.
Right.
So we'll,
Yeah, it's a central. Yeah, it's not.
yeah. But as you mentioned, that division, is
Mhm.
open to anybody. So it doesn't take much for the Royals. If they just get a little traction, they could win that division.
Well, Bobby Witt, last year had a 30-30 season, which ain't bad. So, the Royals win a lot of games. They lost a lot of one-run games, and that I think they're hoping that they can turn that around. The Tigers, again, very interesting, lineup. Matt Verling is your third baseman. Batting second on this team is Riley Green. He's your right fielder. Spencer Torkelson is at first base. Spencer's been around for a while. Kerry Carpenter is your DH. Mark Cannon is your left fielder. Javier Baez, one of the best in the business, is playing shortstop. Colt Keith is your second baseman. That's one of those names where you got to figure this kid played in Texas somewhere. Um, Colt Keith at second base. Jake Rogers, your catcher. Parker Meadows in center field will be your number 9 hitter. Detroit's lineup is deeper. They've made some trades. They got their number 2 prospect up there in Kahana, and we'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, for the Tigers, it's it's consistency, and that's something they have lacked over the past few years. Now, here's the Twins. The Twins seem to always find a way to get themselves into the to the conversation about the playoffs. Edmund Julian is the second baseman. Carlos Correa, that's a name that everybody knows, is your shortstop. Royce Lewis is the third base. Max Kepler is your right fielder. Byron Buxton, everybody loves him at center field. Alex Kirilloff is your DH. Carlos Santana, not to be confused with the guitar players at first base. Matt Wellner is your left fielder, and Ryan Jeffers, I'm sorry, is your catcher. Um, if Byron Buxton can replicate anything that he's done in the past few years, that's probably going to be helpful for a very young but very solid young Twins team. They don't make errors and they don't beat themselves.
Yeah, he was a guy that he had to deal with a lot of injuries last
Right.
year,
Hmm.
but if he can stay healthy, absolutely. We've seen he's like Mike Trout, right?
Yeah.
When he's healthy, he's great, but that's the
Hmm.
key for him to staying healthy this season. But yeah, I think from what you just named there, obviously pitching is huge, but they do have some solid starters, and I think it's their division to lose, as it
Hmm.
usually is.
Yeah. Now, every year, for some reason, we longingly look at the south side of Chicago and say, well, this is going to be the year that White Sox team takes off. They haven't done that in a while. So let's hope that this year. Their left fielder is Andrew Benintendi, who absolutely is a good leadoff hitter. Yohan Mocha is your third baseman. Luis Robert Jr. is your center fielder. Batting in the cleanup spot is Elroy Jimenez, who is a DH. Andrew Vaughn is the first baseman. Dominic Fletcher is your right fielder. Paul DeJong is the shortstop, a guy they added this year. Nicky Lopez is your second baseman. And Martin Martinado, one of the best in the business, is behind the plate. Now, in theory, this group should be better, certainly defensively. They got up the middle, they've got some pretty good defense. Uh, it really boils down, if you're the White Sox, to scoring runs. I mean, that was their problem last year. It wasn't they played reasonably well defensively. They didn't get the pitching, and they really couldn't get timely hitting, and so that was a recipe for disaster for the guys on the south side. So let's see if things change at all
Yeah. So this
this
is
time around.
this is a team that's like they are the Blue Jays of the Central. Every year we got to hear about how
Right.
it's a playoff team. It's going to be their year, and then something happens midway through the season. They're struggling to
Hmm.
stay 10 games above 500, and then we end up just missing the wild card altogether. So same story every year. But I can tell you, Chip, this is the year this is the year that Vegas has finally given up on them. They are last
Ah,
to win the division, and they finally have accepted that this is just a bad team, and they're going to be a bad team.
yeah, there's nothing going to change that. So here we go out to West. Okay, now we went out West, and we said this a couple weeks ago that the West is stacked. I mean, absolutely stacked. And we're going to start in Anaheim, and there will be a name you do not see on this in the in the Halos lineup, and you'll figure it out. Luis Rifogo is their second baseman. Nolan Samuel is your first baseman. Center fielder hitting third is Michael Trout. Hitting fourth, Tony Two Bags is what they called him when he played for the Nationals. Anthony Rendon is your third baseman. Taylor Ward, Taylor Ward, left field, he's your number 5 hitter. He and Brandon Drury, who is number 6 on the batting order as your DH. Those two guys, really, they can rake. They can hit the ball, and year in year out, they've played well for this Angels team. In large part because the two guys ahead of them, Trout and Rendon, can't stay healthy. Logan Hope is your catcher. Mickey Monarch is your right fielder. Zach Nito is your shortstop. And yes, we do not see, Shohei Ohtani in that Angels lineup. It's not, that the 9 people we just named as the starting lineup. I'm guessing there's going to be at least 3 or 4 changes into that lineup as the season goes on, because other than Trout and Rendon, you got to hope that both those guys stay healthy. Taylor Ward, Brandon Drury will help you out, but they're not the kind of guys who can take a team if a Trout or a Rendon is out. And last year, Trout and Rendon were out, and put them on their backs and go for it. So we'll have to see how that works for the Angels this year. I mean, they'd be lucky if they finished 4th in that division.
Oh no, they don't say that, Jim. Come on.
Oh, what?
They're gonna finish 4th. Let's be real.
All right, fine.
They're not finishing last in that division, and we
No.
all know why that is.
Well, yeah, I forgot for a moment what the division I was with.
But I will say, Jim, I totally wish I could bet on them to finish 4th, because that is exactly where they are finishing in this division. There is no doubt about it. It doesn't matter how well they do. There is 3 teams ahead of them that they are not going to catch, and there is 1 team underneath them that is not going to catch them.
Right. Well, in the Astros, basically, this is a Xerox. Okay, you know this this lineup. Jose Altuve at second base. Jordan Alvarez is your DH. Third baseman and third batter in the lineup is Alex Bergman. Kyle Tucker is in right field. He is your cleanup batter. Jose Abreu at first base. Yonder Diaz is behind the plate. Chaz McCormick is left field. Jeremy Pena is the shortstop. And Jake Myers batting 9th and playing center field. It's probably the deepest lineup certainly in this division, but probably one in baseball.
Yeah, I don't think there's not much needs to be said about these guys. And for the record, they are the favorites to win the entire American League this year. So there you go.
That's all you need to say, right?
Yeah, even though the defending champions are in their division, that's your favorite, the Astros.
There you go. Well, we got to go with the Athletics now.
Do we just gloss over this one?
Yeah, we can. I think I just feel that we should at least name the 9 guys who are going out there, because
yes, absolutely.
they have to. They deserve a little love, because nobody knows where they're going to play, and there's a book written by Philip Roth. It's called The Great American Novel, and there's a story in the book for those of you who have not read it. It's short stories, and one of the short stories is about the owner of a team that sells his stadium and plays 162 road games. Now, that book was written in 1960, but you could bring it back, and the Athletics would be that team. So here's your
Did
Oakland
somebody
Athletics.
did, did somebody have a time machine and go
They
back in
must
time
have.
and write that book?
Right.
Because wow, that
Right.
sounds accurate.
Yep. It's a short story, and for those of you who like reading stories, the movie and the short story "Goodbye Columbus" was in the Book of Great American Novels. So there you go. There's your literary. There's your literary reference of the day. All right, here we go. Ryan Noda is first base. Tell me if you've heard any of these people. All right. Brent Brooker is your DH. Seth Brown is your right fielder. Shay Langers is your catcher. I have heard of Shay. JJ Bleday is your left fielder. Jordan Diaz is at third base. Nikki Allen is your shortstop, and Lawrence Butler is your center fielder. So there you go. It's yeah. I don't know what to say. I think, as you said, gloss. The less said, probably the better.
30 wins. Let's move on.
Yeah, 30 wins. Is that 30? It's plus or minus. Okay. The Mariners, or as we like to refer to them here, underachievers. J.P. Crawford is your shortstop. Julio Rodriguez, one of the best in center field. George Polanco, second base. Mitch Garver, DH. Cal Raleigh is your catcher. Ty France is your first baseman. Dominic Canizone or Luke Riley in left field. They're going to platoon those guys. Mitch Hanger is your right fielder. And at third base, they're also going to do some moving around with Luis Urias is at third base and Josh Rojas. Those Canizone will bat and play left field when you've got a right-handed pitcher. Rayleigh will do it whenever you got a left-handed pitcher. Rojas, when you got a right-handed pitcher, will be at third base. And Urias, it'll be there when there's a left-handed pitcher. So there you go. Now here,
pieces are there. That's all I'm
right,
gonna say. The pieces are there. Let's
Okay. Here is the Rangers. Okay. Now, Marcus Simeon is still batting first, and your second baseman. Corey blasts the ball out of the ballpark. Seager is shortstop. Evan Carter's in left field. Adolis Garcia is in right field. Josh Young is your third baseman. Nathaniel Lowe is your first baseman. Jonah Helm is catching. Justin Foscue is your DH, and your center fielder is Lenny Tavares. It's pretty much Bruce Bochy's same, group that won the World Series. They did lose Mitch Garver, who was the designated hitter last year. But, Foscue, who is the guy who's taken his place, is the number 6 prospect in baseball and the number 2 prospect on the Rangers team, and they seem to like him very, very much. We did remind you all that Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer, who saw limited action last year, they're going to come back. All right. Now, they are not, in fairness, they're not going to be available until at least mid June, maybe even into July. So that's DeGrom and Scherzer are not going to be there. But Eovaldi did a good job. Nathan Eovaldi did a really good job. John Gray did a good job last year. Dane Dunning wasn't a bad pitcher for them. So they got enough pitching to get them through. Let's move to the National League. Here's the Braves. Now, they have in here, and let me give you the caveat, Ronald Acuna Jr. in right field leading off. Acuna is probably not going to be ready for opening day. He might be, but probably not. But he'll be coming soon. Ozzie Albies is at second base. Austin Riley's at third. Matt Olson is at first. I know the A's fans are probably going, I remember these names. You should. Marcelo Zuna is at DH. Sean Murphy is your catcher. Jared Kelmick is in left field. Orlando Arcia is the shortstop, and Michael Harris II is your center fielder. Basically, it is cut and paste, pretty much the same lineup they had last year.
Yeah, it almost feels unchanged. You got to expect the same greatness from this team. So yeah, and the same greatness from all the ex A's players throughout the league. So
Right.
go figure. Just if you really want to know who's in the right, just go look at these players that
Where's
used to
the
be
A's
on the
players? Yeah.
Athletics. Yeah, go look at what they've done the last 2 seasons. And you tell me if that was a team that where we just needed to fire sale everybody.
There you go. Here's the Marlins, who a lot of people have taken a liking to because of their young, and talented pitching staff. They just didn't score runs last year. And here's the lineup they're going to put on the field this year. Luis Arez is going to be your second baseman. Timmy Anderson's a shortstop. Josh Bell, who just keeps playing. Doesn't matter what uniform he's got. He's put him out there and he'll play. Josh Bell's first base. Jake Berger is your third baseman. Jazz Chisholm Jr. is your center fielder. Brian Dela Cruz is your left fielder. Isabel Garcia is your DH. Jesus Sanchez is your right fielder. And Nick Fortes is your catcher. So there you go.
I'm expecting an improved Marlins team, so we'll see.
It really just boils down to, can they score runs? Because their pitching staff's not going to give up a ton, that's for sure. So there we go. Here's the Mets. This is another cut and paste lineup. Brandon Nimmo is your left fielder. Francisco Lindor is your shortstop. Pete Alonso, the polar bear, is at first base. Jeff McNeil's at second base. Starling Marte is your right fielder. Brett Batty is your third baseman. Francisco Alvarez is a catcher. Mark Vincentos is your DH. And Harrison Bader is in center field. Again, cut and paste that lineup. They're usually, their problem is not, the Mets' problem is not going to be scoring runs. The Mets' problem is going to be keeping other teams from scoring, because they just, they've had some problems with their pitching. And we'll see. We will see how the Mets do coming out of this. And I know that you like the Mets, and there's nothing wrong with the Mets.
Well,
It's
the
just
other problem they've had is just they when they get cold, they get ice cold. So
yeah,
that's the other thing too, right? Is it's better
and they
pitching.
get cold as a team.
Yeah, yeah. It's ridiculous, right? Like you'll have like the top three, they just can't hit, and that's how
Right.
they lose. They lose like a 1-0 game after they won 11-10 the last
The night
week
before.
straight. They literally winning games 11-10, 9-8, and then all of a sudden just they'll have the spell where it's like 2-0, 4-1. They just can't hit. So yeah, it's consistency. I think the injury to Edwin Diaz last year kind of deflated them early in the season, and then the Verlander Scherzer experiment just really threw their pitching staff out of whack. So hopefully we see a better start on that end. And then again, with the guys, the pieces are there in the lineup. It's just a matter of production and consistency.
Well, here's a group of players in the Washington Nationals who are a young team and basically made up of players who came to the team from the Dodger farm system, the Cardinal farm system, and the San Diego Padres farm system. So C.J. Abrams is a shortstop. Kid plays very good shortstop. He last year, very solid. He does get on base. Lane Thomas, right fielder. He's another kid that came on toward the end of the season. Kelbert Ruiz is going to be a star as a catcher in this league. Whether it will be this year or not, we'll have to see how that goes. But he's a great catcher, and he's starting to get his hitting together. So I'm a little surprised they have him in the number 3 spot. But again, Davey will figure out whether he wants him at the top or at the bottom of that lineup. Joe Menzies is the first baseman. Joey Gallo, that's a name out of the past from Cincinnati Reds fans, is your left fielder. Stone Garrett is a DH. Nick Senzel at third base. Luis Garcia Jr., who played very well at shortstop and at second base last year. is your second baseman, and Victor Robles, who can't hit, but boy, can he cover ground in center field, is your defensive center fielder for the Washington Nationals, who I would hope to be a little closer to the top, but they have another season of being in the last place position in that going to
Yeah,
be competitive
sorry,
division.
Jim. Sorry,
Yeah.
Jim. Not expecting much from the Nats this year, but I
Nope.
will say Lane Thomas, I think, was their best player by far last season,
Yeah.
and I'm excited to see how he grows as a player this year.
Yeah. Well, here's the Phillies, boys and girls. The South Philadelphia. Here we go. Kyle Schwarber is your DH, and he leads off. Trey Turner's your shortstop. Bryce Harper's your first baseman. He bats 3. Alex Bohm is your third baseman. Underrated Alex Bohm, I should say, is your third baseman. JT Realmuto is your catcher. Bryson Scott, your second baseman. Nick Calasanos is your right fielder. Brandon Marsh is your left fielder, and Johan Rojas is in center field. That's as good a lineup as I've seen right there.
Yeah, well, you know what they call him down in Philly, Alex
What's that?
Bohm. They call him Alex Bombs because he's always hitting them bombs. And Rycape will tell you the same thing. Big fan favorite down there in Philly. As you said, underrated player. He's really is a solid one. And yeah, I think we can all agree that runs aren't going to be the problem with this team. It's going to be all about the money they just spent locking down those number one and number two guys in their starting rotation. That's going to be the key for this Phillies team and the players that come after those two.
Well, and they even Nick Calastanos, the right fielder, well enough to just tell Bryce you're playing first base.
Yeah,
and it's that it's pretty amazing. It's going to be interesting, and I really think before the season is over, you're probably going to see Trey Turner be the leadoff hitter for this team. I don't think that. Schwarber is a all or nothing guy, right? He's going to hit home runs. He's not. There's a lot of swing and miss in Schwarber's bat, but Turner's a much better, get on base kind of guy, and he's also, if he's on first base, he's going to be on second base soon. So we'll see how that, especially since of the pitch clock and all that other stuff has gone in. All right, so here we go to the Central. Who knows who's going to win this one? The Brewers. Christian Yelich is back. Left field. William Contreras is catcher. Willie Adams, there you go, is your shortstop. Rhys Hoskins. Boy, that was a steal for the Brewers at first base. Sal Fennick is your right fielder. Gary Sinise is your catcher. Jackson Shirano is your center fielder. Tyler Black is your third baseman. Joey Ortiz rounds out that starting lineup for the Brew Crew. Is Christian Yelich ever going to get back to even close to the kind of MVP type person, or is he gone?
I know it feels like he had that one MVP season, years ago, and we haven't seen him since. It's like where he hasn't even been playing games. It feels like.
I loved him when he was with the Miami Marlins. I always thought that he was a solid player. He's had 2 years where he's been in like the witness relocation program.
Yeah, it's exactly what I'm talking about. It's like he hasn't even been in the league. You don't hear much at all, and it's probably a big reason why we've seen the Brewers really deflate over these last 2 seasons. That was for a while, that was really their division. Obviously it was always them and the Cardinals, but for a while the Brewers were locking. There was a stint of a few years where they were just locking it up, and now they've just completely let it go.
They scramble. Well, here's the Cardinals lineup. Now, the leadoff man for the Cardinals, tell me if it doesn't sound like he plays for the Dutch national soccer team, okay? Lars Nootbaar is the left fielder for the Cardinals.
Yes, straight from the Eredivisie right there.
Right. He plays he's No, he's your left fielder. Paul
Picked him up from Ajax and
right,
brought him over. It's very, very good.
right. Hey, he's where
It's
he
okay.
doesn't
He's
have
athletic and can jump high. He'll learn the
right,
sport.
right, and he doesn't have he's not going to be wearing an orange jersey. It'll be red. Paul Goldsmith back with the Cardinals at first base. Nolan Gorman, DH. Nolan Arenado, your third baseman. Wilson Contreras is your catcher. Brandon Donovan is your second baseman. Jordan Walker's your right fielder. Tommy Edman is your center fielder. And Mays Wynn is your shortstop. They're hoping to have a bounce back year from Goldsmith and Arenado, who had really nothing the past couple of years. And, as much as I kid about the fact that Lars Nootbaar is a is a fun name, who he's got potential to be a Paul Goldsmith or an Nolan in 2 or 3 years. So, Lars, we'd love to have you, buddy. We'll see how Cardinals go. Who is the favorite in that division, by the way?
The Cardinals are the favorite. Believe it or not, they're not a they're not a favorite. It's about a plus 135.
Not prohibitive favorite. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Here's your Cubs. Nico Horner's at second base. Danby Swanson's your shortstop. Ian Happ is your left fielder. Cody Bellinger signed that big contract and plays center field. Senior Suzuki is your right fielder. Christopher Morel is your third baseman. Michael Busch is your first baseman. Yan Gomez is your catcher. Mike Toutman is your DH. I have no idea whether the Cubs are going to be good or not. Bellinger can hit. Danby Swanson can hit. Happ can hit. It's, I don't know. What's Vegas think of them?
They were a streaky team last year, so
Yeah.
I assume if they win that division, it's gonna be because of a big hot streak that they go on. They're gonna have to ride that. But to win the division, let me just check here. So yeah, Cardinals plus 135. Then it's the Cubs at plus 210, and then it's your Reds at plus 350.
Well, here's one of my favorite players, and we're talking now about the Pirates. Leading off, O'Neal Cruz, the shortstop, who's 6'7". He looks like a power forward, but he's there. Kebron Hayes is your third baseman. By the way, Pirates fans know that when O'Neal Cruz gets good, he will be playing for somebody else. They'll trade him. That's just the way the Pirates do things. Byron Reynolds is your left fielder. Jack Suzuki is your center fielder. Rowdy Tellez is your first baseman. And here's a name from out of the past. Andrew McCutcheon is your DH. Henry Davis is your catcher. Jared Torrillo is your second baseman. Connor Joe is your right fielder. We'll have to see how that goes. But O'Neal Cruz is a fun guy to watch. So
that looks like a team finishing in 5th place in the division. And I'm sure if any of their players start to have a bit of a breakout season, they'll be gone before the trade deadline. So not a worry there.
Pirate fans are used to that. Here's the Cincinnati Reds. Johan India is your DH leading off. Batting second for them is Matt McLean, and he's your second baseman. Yarmir Candelario is your third baseman. Ellie De La Cruz is your shortstop. Christian Encarnacion Stand. How about that for a name? Man, I'd hate to have to be the person that stitches that on the back of the jersey. Is your first baseman. Spencer Steer is your left fielder. Tyler Stevenson is your catcher. TJ Friedel is your center fielder. And Will Benson is your right fielder. Not a lot of household names on that Cincinnati Reds starting team.
Yeah, so once again, they could hit last year. They showed that, but it's the pitching for them that was a real issue. So we'll have to see where that takes them this year.
Here we go. We're back into closing things out in the West. Corbin Carroll is your right fielder. Ketel Marte is the second base. Gabriel Morano is your catcher. Christian Walker is at first base. Joe Patterson is your DH. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is your left fielder. Eugenio Suarez is at third base. Alex Thomas at center field. And Geraldo Perdomo is your shortstop. Pretty much the same group of players that got all the way to the World Series last year for Arizona.
Yeah, and Corbin Carroll, I believe, he was a rookie last year, wasn't he?
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yep.
so you know what? He had a great season as a rookie, and
Yeah.
could only expect greater things from him this year. So love to see how this team grows. I mean, you and I both talked a lot about how they were early last year. So we'll see
Yeah.
where it takes them this year.
They're not going to surprise anybody this time around.
Yeah.
So we'll see. All right, here come the Dodgers, or as we like to say, an all-star team. Lead off. Mookie Betts, your second baseman. DH is Shohei Ohtani. Freddie Freeman's at first base. Will Smith is your catcher. Max Muncy's at third base. Jason Hayward, the ageless one, is in right field. Toscar Hernandez is your left fielder. James Ottman is your center fielder. And Gavin Lux is your shortstop. Not a lot of misses in that batting order. That's you have to go all the way down to probably 6. Jason Hayward, there's some swing and miss in that bat, but not much in that. The Dodgers, of course, they're only going to go as far as the rotation takes them, and they added to it, which is good, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, it'll be another big season for them just because they were missing a lot of guys from the rotation last year. So
Yeah.
hopefully they get a few of those guys back and they'll be better off for it.
Here's my dark horse in the West, the San Francisco Giants. Young-Hoo Lee is in center field. This kid is played ball in the Korean League, and can handle a bat. Trujillo Estada is your second baseman. Lamont Wade Jr. is your first baseman. Jorge Solar is your DH. Michael Conforto, who many years plagued everybody in the East when he was with the Mets, is your left fielder. Matt Chapman signed a contract, I think, today to return as the third baseman for the Giants. And Chapman is a pretty darn good player. Mike Yemstresky at right field. Patrick Bailey is your catcher. And Marco Luciano is your shortstop. Lee, Solar, Chapman, they've got 3 everyday players that's going to stabilize that lineup. And we'll have to see how they go. But I do think the Giants are going to be far improved over what happened to them last season.
Yeah, it feels to me like the story is always the same with this Giants team. You know, they're always supposed to be one of the worst in the division,
Right.
not expected to do anything, and then every year they surprise people by having a decent record. Right? They're not a
Right.
great team, but they do a lot better than what's expected. Especially that year they won the division with 100 wins and beat out the
Yeah.
Dodgers. So that was that was a huge shock, and once again they're not expected to do much. I believe they're last to win this division, or fourth at least. But this is or sorry, fourth. Yeah, definitely not over the Rockies. But this is one where the Giants, are they going to win the division? Absolutely not. You're going to get through the juggernaut that is the Dodgers. But can you be a playoff team? Absolutely. I mean, we saw the Diamondbacks get in there last year, and that's going to be your competition. So I think that's the key for the Giants this year, is outplaying the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, and I do think they spent some money, and they're going to be in there. Now here's the Padres. It's a lineup that should play better and win more games, but they don't, and I don't know why. But here we go. Ha-Sung Kim is your second baseman. Fernando Tatis Jr. is your right fielder. Manny Machado, your DH. Xander Bogaerts, your shortstop. Jake Chenoweth is your first baseman. Luis Capizano is catching. Jursak Provar, one of my favorite players, is playing left field. Matthew Batten is at third base, and Jose Ascar is in center field. Profar, Batten, and Oscar may not start on opening day, um, in large part because of minor injuries. Nothing to worry about there, but they'll get there when they get there. So we'll have to see how this Padres team. And remember, they lost pitching as well, so we'll have to see how that plays out. And the last team we have to talk about is the Rockies, and they lead off with the DH Charlie Blackmon, who has been, out there for as long as almost they made Coors beer. He's been definitely out there. Charlie Blackmon, Chris Bryan, remember him back when he was good? He's the first baseman for the Rockies. Nolan Jones is your second. Ryan is your third baseman. Elijah is your catcher. Sean Bouchard, seventh in the batting order, is your left fielder. Ezekiel Tovar is your shortstop, and then Brenton Doyle is your center fielder. The Rockies, they got speed at the top of the lineup. There's no question about that, but they got to get them in, and that's been their problem year in and year out. Is not that they can't get on base; it's getting them back off, across home plate from on the base paths, and they've let a lot of runners stranded on the path out there. But that's you'll look at some of the starting lineups for opening day, which is just a little over a month away.
Yeah.
So we will be ready to rock and roll on for opening day. Any final thoughts about some of the teams we've looked at here over the past few minutes?
Oh, no, I mean, the Rockies, probably going to be another gloss over. Just like the A's, there's
Yeah.
always one in that West. But yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
I think it's the Dodgers' division to lose. So we'll see. We'll see what Otani we get as in a season where he can just focus on hitting.
We'll see. I'm curious to see how Soto plays in New York, especially with the spotlight that will be there. I'm interested in seeing how Aaron Judge plays center field, and generally just how the Yankees, they spent money, but was that money spent? And I still think they're going to get Blake Snell before it's all said and done. So we'll have to see. Um, Scott Boras said this morning that he expected, you know, some of those pitchers to get signed in the next week or two. So, which is good for them because otherwise they'll be signing them, after opening day. So we'll see what happens, Scott. So anyway, more importantly, you have some things to talk about tonight, and we don't want to get. You might have. Do you have an afternoon soccer game that's up in starts soon, or
Yeah. So
let's hustle to get it there so they can get to the window.
exactly. So make sure you check out my premium picks at bigal.com, pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. The links are in the description below. As Jim just said, I got a Champions League play that you can get, starts in 5 minutes. So make sure you go grab that. I also have 2 plays in Argentina on the pitch that you can get, as well as 4 college basketball games,
Oof.
including my MAC game of the year. So make sure you go check
Wow.
that out. I'm coming off a 4-0 day, so
Whoa.
very hot right now. I've had 3 winning days in the first 4 of March. So looking to turn around what was not a great February, but definitely back on track and on a hot streak right now in March.
The Ides of Marchupane. So there we go. All right. Well, we will check on a couple things tomorrow. We'll let you know what's going on in Major League Soccer because that's going to be some. You all enjoyed last Wednesday's conversation about soccer. We'll have it again for the MLS, and it's senior night in at USF, and they're going to be playing the Tulane Green Wave, and they're actually, as you said, they're a favorite tonight.
Yeah, huge
A
7.5 point favorite for them. So big shout out to my guys at South Florida. Love
right.
this team. Just remember, don't be happy. You're still not in the tournament. You still have
Right.
to win this game. If you cannot lose another game, so yeah, let's 7.5. Last time I took you guys 5.5. We missed by a half point. That's okay though. Love you guys. You made a lot of money for me this year. Let's get a nice double-digit win and keep hammering it home to these people that you're a tournament team. Because at this point, winning means nothing. You've lost one conference game all year, and it means
Right.
absolutely nothing to the people putting you in the tournament. So let's start going for style points now. Let's blow the doors off every team we can. Let's do it.
There you go. Just nail it and get it over with. All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. For Amadeus, I'm Jim. Take care.